Hello everyone, Leslie here. This first part of the video where I'm actually color mixing, I will be live recording. After yesterday's video and the fact that I can speed it up and save you time and do voiceovers, you're probably going to see me do more and more voiceovers, but this part of the video sometimes is interesting to people, and I don't want it to sound canned when I'm trying to explain what I'm doing. I have about 10 ounces of resin mixed up here, equal parts, 1-1, mixed for 3 minutes. I saw someone yesterday say they were trying to mix it to get the bubbles out, and actually the more you mix it, the more bubbles you make. So mixing it isn't going to get the bubbles out. It will make it more clear as you see the resin and the hardener mix. You'll get more clarity in it. So today we're playing with some experimental colors I'm working on. One thing I see missing in the line, we're actually, for our people that's never seen me before, we're working with Rezin Arte. This is an epoxy paint in a dry form with the solvent color and all the minerals preconditioned so they dissolve, disperse quickly in your resin. Okay, so I am going to play with a color called Blue Moon that we've already got. There I'm working on a dark teal. This is my lab batch. If I like it in this test, we'll be making this next week. And then when I originally made Twilight Orchid was supposed to be a version of Periwinkle, but it turned out much more warmer of a violet than I thought. So I just mixed up two different versions. One's a little bit darker than the other. I really won't know how much I'm going to like it until I actually get it in the resin. And then I will be doing some last minute gilding with some golden diamond, and I will be working with illuminite white. So first things first, so you guys can actually see the color in the jar, what it looks like if you're new to us. The color is very concentrated, so you need about 1/8 of a teaspoon per ounce. These cups have about 1.5 ounces in each one of them. So there's your Blue Moon, and yes, I put it on top because it will dissolve very quickly in the resin. As I said, it's been already preconditioned, all that mica and everything. It's pretty much already mixed, even though it's our instinct to always go to the bottom and make sure everything's pulled up to the top. It's a very, very, very deep, deep ultramarine blue. So this is the test of the dark teal. I guess I'm going to have to come up with a name by Tuesday. I wanted something of this value. That means the depth of that color. But in the dark teal family, that's something we just don't have. So there's my 1.5 spoons of my Mystery Neptune Blue. Is that Neptune's Ocean? Yeah, I'm toying around with names already. Well, that is a pretty color. Whether it's dark enough or not is another question. I know we don't have a color this dark on the... Wow, that is really pretty. Let's see how much of a close-up I can get of this. That is an extraordinary color. Yeah, we don't have anything like this in the line. That's going to work well. Okay, I should really be doing these in smaller cups. At first I made this color for basically a Christmas periwinkle color, and it looked a little dark, so I lightened it up. You guys get to see this firsthand, how this works. So I'm going to put the lighter one in here. May not even show up, make that much difference on the camera, but we'll see. The darker one in there. Pretty much had a lot in that first spoon. Get these test samples off the table. That's interesting. That's almost like a Dutch blue, but I know that there's violet in it. It's going to be interesting what happens when that spreads apart. There's actually more purple in this than our Twilight Orchid per batch, and look how violet that is. That's crazy. Okay, now here's the one that's the darker value. My concern, this might be too close to Belize Blue. It's not, but we're getting to the value of Belize Blue. Personally, I prefer this. I might add a little more violet, but we got to see how that violet pops in there. In this jar, it looks like blues, 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 which is basically what this demo's about. My friend Judy asked me to do something with all blues, so I told her I would. Here is the Illuma Light White. I love the stone coat, but I want my cells very subtle. I was on the fence on this because stone coat, you're supposed to swipe the color over the stone coat, and I'm going to be doing swipes out to the edges of my 16 by 20 canvas. And yet, I want to see the possibilities of using the Luminite White as my negative space white. Actually, that looks a little bit too transparent. I'm going to mix this as I need some for my negative space all on the outside corners, so make a little bit more of this Illuminite white, Illumalight, keep calling it Illuminite, Illumalight White. Okay, from this point on, this is going to be pre-recorded. That means I get to watch my Christmas movies. See you guys on the flip side when we're looking through the video phone at the final product. Be right back. So I begin by laying some clear resin on my canvas to lubricate it. It is easier to float your resin on the top of an already lubricated canvas or surface. I'm warming the resin gently so it'll spread a little bit easier. All I really need is a thin coat. I'm in love with this little tool. It's a little silicone tool they use for coloring hair, and it's perfect for spreading the resin around. Make sure you get your corners. You do not want to have dry corners. I'm going to be very careful. Next, I'm going to lay my Illuminite around all the edges, and I'll just keep gradually moving more and more in towards the center as I'm laying it out. And then warming it gently. The weather's changing, and so I wanted to make sure that the resin was gliding. So I'm warming just slightly. I'm not cooking the resin. I'm just warming that resin. Getting all of my edges covered with white first. And then I'll gradually go more and more towards the center. I'm just going to leave the very center of it clear. Just a small area clear when I'm done. Every time you introduce resin, make sure to use a little heat to also pop your bubbles. It's not just moving the resin around, but it's also keeping the bubbles down. Okay, now we're going to start laying our colors out. This is that new dark teal. I know it's showing up kind of green on the canvas, but this is extraordinary color. I tried to get to the same value as that blue moon, that dark blue that I just put up on the top. try to get the turquoise, that teal, in the same value, same shade or depth of color. This is the lighter Periwinkle, which I think that's the one I've decided on. This was a test. And then this next one is just a slightly darker shade of that same Periwinkle blue. Periwinkle is technically a lighter value purple, but it's a blue-violet, blue-purple. So they actually call it Periwinkle blue if you're looking it up. Some people consider it the blue family. Okay, now I'm going to swipe this first section. I'm using old paper where I've peeled off labels. You can use freezer paper, parchment paper, anything that's real slick. And I'm just warming gently in between to encourage cells. I'm not using the stone coat, so I'm trying to get the aluminite, which is just a little bit softer as far as cells. It's not quite as aggressive as making cells. You kind of have to encourage it with the heat. But I really like the final look that it gave me. And when you're blowing that aluminite white on top of the color, you get this really pretty, delicate lacing. Almost looks like the waves of an ocean. It's funny how you have something in your mind and then it changes immediately as soon as you get started. That's okay. I do like where this piece ended up at, even though in the middle of it I was kind of wondering where was I going, because part of it I wanted to swipe, part of it I wanted to blow the color around. You can see that violet in there. See how that violet just popped? You can tell that that's a periwinkle blue. I am definitely like that color. I think I'm landing on the name Pretty Periwinkle, but I have yet to come up with a great name for that dark teal. When you're doing the swipe, make sure you kind of have full contact with that paper. If you saw me tap my finger down, I was just trying to make sure that all edges of that paper was setting in paint before I gently dragged it over. Another little trick is blowing the aluminite back and forth. So I had put the aluminite out on the edges, so I wanted to take advantage of blowing the color back and forth and see what kind of reaction I got out of that. At this point, I felt like, oh my goodness, what am I doing? What did I get myself into? But I think we've all felt that way. Not sure how much you guys can see the delicate lacing that's starting to pop up in that dark teal area where the white hit it. So I have a lot of leftover resin. I decided to kind of bring in some of those darker colors. That one color that I put first was that dark teal. The blue moon is that dark blue. And then that's that periwinkle, that pretty periwinkle. I am really enjoying this color combination. I'm just hoping I can get my negative space right. Always a challenge for me. I don't have problem with color. As many of you know watching me, I'm still learning my negative space. And this is where I decided to correct it. I figured I made up a little bit more of the white and said, hey, let's embrace the areas that are already white or look like they could be enhanced by a little bit of white. I'm moving it around, but very, very carefully. My whole point of having that white there is just to create some negative space, not to muddy up my color. So I'm being very careful to just kind of move it around without blowing it everywhere. Boy, that section right there that I blew, when it dried, it looks like the perfect foam floating over water. I really do enjoy this Illumilite white. It gives us nice effects. At this point, I'm starting to like my composition, and I'm worried, should I even put gold in it? So a little bit more of the white. This one section up there in the right-hand side, I kind of got worried about that space there. I think once it's dry, it'll look okay, but I was a little worried that I kind of overworked that one little area just a tad. Still moving the colors around until it gets to where it feels very balanced to my eye. At this point, I feel like I want still more white in here. I can't seem to get enough of that pretty blue moon color. You know what it's like when you just have to work something and work something, then all of a sudden you say, okay, I'm stopping right here. This is it. That's the point I hit right there, wondering,
Should I actually put in some gold? But hey, I can't control myself. I had just a little tiny bit of gold, mostly just around that edge of that little bit of blue moon so we get some pop. Hoping to not make it too gaudy. All I did was warm it gently. I find that if you warm the gold just ever so slightly, it spreads across the top, but I did not want to blow the gold actually into the paint. So here's a close-up. Not sure about the gold, but it's there now. Not much I can do about it. Just a few seconds, we'll get a close-up of what I got on my phone.
Well, this is the last piece I just did. It was an experiment of this new DeepTeal that's yet to be named. With Blue Moon, our very, very dark blue. Isn't that gorgeous? See how sparkly it is, that blue moon is? Lacing up over that teal. I used Alumilite white. I'm loving that lacing right there. It's real sparkly. Not sure if the camera's picking up the sparkle of that color. That's that golden diamond lacing over the center there. I'm loving how the blue moon is the darkest color in here. There is no black at all. So this is the new teal. Dark, dark, dark teal. And the blue moon. And I'm not sure if you can pick up the violet. There's also a new color, a periwinkle color that I'm working on. And that's what this beautiful light periwinkle blue is that's mixed up into that blue moon on the top. Down here you see little wisps of violet coming through, and that's from that new periwinkle color. I might call it pretty periwinkle. But there you have it. 16 by 20 on canvas. Thanks, guys.